and it had potential for commercial sort of appeal. And so there was like something really cheap with a bit of commerciality to it. Like the producers were just like, they did the maths and were like, this can't, even if you have like, as long as there's a couple of shots of a creature in there, we can stick it straight to DVD, or we can sell it to the Sci-Fi Channel or something, then it can't really go wrong. So they were really like, I remember James, the producer, sort of explained it by, because I was really nervous. Basically, in my mind, I could see how much money they were spending, like in my mind, and I had a bit of money that I'd saved, and I was going to go make the film on my own, sort of thing. And then in my mind, mentally, I could see that we were spending more than I had in my bank account. And there was a point where I said to James, "Look, I'm really nervous because if you don't like what I give you, I can't pay you back," sort of thing. And he found it hilarious. He was like the first person ever to offer pay money back. But it was like, and then he said to me, "Look, the way we do it is this: is we have a slate with some money, and we divide it up. This is for ultra commercial kind of stuff. This is for people's, second film or something." He says, and there's a small part that was, this is money that we just throw away, which is an ideas that just should not work. He said, Monsters is funded by that bit. So he was like, don't worry. We'll never admit to saying this now, but it's like, he was like, don't worry. If it's rubbish and we just throw it in the bin at the end, he was like, then we'll still believe we did the right thing by trying it, sort of thing. So they were really behind it. Yeah. Well, we got.
What did you shoot it on?
Yeah, it was a Sony EX3 with a Litas Ultimate adapter and a 50mm SLR Nikon lens.
Wow.
F1.2 mainly. Sometimes it's 28.
And was that chosen because of cost or because of portability?
Well, with the Red, for people who know about cameras, the Red is the other sort of option higher up. Lower down, there wasn't the digital SLRs like there are now. There wasn't a Canon back there. This was like 2 years ago we shot this. And so the only real option was the Red, was the other, because I wanted that narrow depth of field. I wanted that beautiful look you get from 35mm, sort of, or even digital. And so, and the Red is like, okay, yeah, it's a revolution in terms of its price, but once you get all the stuff stuck on it, and the monitor, and everything else, you need a focus puller and all this sort of stuff, you're back to like the situation you are with film, where you're not like guerrilla, it's not revolutionary in terms of how it feels on set, it's just revolutionary in terms of it only costs 20 grand as opposed to what, like 100 or something. So the next one down, we did a few camera tests and we blew them up to 35mm, I had a look at them, and the Sony looked the best by far, and it was the easiest to use. I was sort of solving it just before we even looked at the footage. It just felt so much better. I've got a permanent bad back now from the camera. And it's a nice little anecdote because I feel like we should laugh at something. So there was, I genuinely had a bad back during the filming, and taking painkillers and things, and they said, I said, I need a real proper massage, we're in Mexico, and they said, oh, that woman, she runs a sports thing, she'll do it. And so I go over there, and it's the first time in the whole shoot that I've had a chance to have some of my own headspace. They play tranquil music and everything, and she's doing everything. About an hour into it, she does all this stuff, and I'm in my mind thinking, okay, right, the big bone of contention with the producers, everything's how to end the movie, like, is it a happy ending, is it a sad ending, all this sort of stuff. And so I'm sitting there playing through all the different versions in my head. Just at the end, I'm totally relaxed, trying to figure out which one we should go for. And she at the end, she just leans into my ear and whispers, "Happy ending." She genuinely did do that.
And what did you say?
Okay, absolutely honestly, I said, how does that work? And she said, do you want to know? She said, $100 and you can come on my tits. That's how that went. And I didn't spend $100. I got it down to 50. Flew low budget and everything. Any other questions?
How many people did you have in the crew? I'm presuming it's quite small, and so what were their all roles individually?
It was very small, but we had a couple of days that were big days. And when I say big, I mean we had like 10 people, as opposed to like 4 or 5, which we had most of the time. The big days were the opening scene, where we had the night vision thing, and the campfire, because we needed this sort of art director, pretend. And basically they were saying, everybody in the film that has a gun, that's in the daylight, they're basically bodyguards that the government provided for free to stop us from being kidnapped or shot at or whatever. And I I didn't realise it, so the line producer kept it really quiet because we were all pretending that it was really safe to do what we were doing, and the actors were a little bit nervous about being in Central America the way we were, and so and so we had a line producer, a Spanish-speaking line producer, sort of fixer, me filming, a sound man, and that was essentially the main crew. And then there was Scootin with the actors, and then back at the motel there was Colin, the editor, and his assistant, who were just. We did it on tapeless, so you think to yourself, oh, that's great because we don't get tapes anymore. What an amazing invention! But it's actually a lot harder because this is Adobe sponsored. It can be a lot harder unless you've got a Premiere Pro. And that you have to like check this footage before because you've got to keep deleting it so you can shoot the next day. And it's quite nerve-wracking deleting, everything that you nearly died for, shooting that day. So they basically were cloning it, checking it, and sending drives off back to the UK and sending it. So yeah, I'd say about 70 to 80% of the film was this small crew, and then about another 30% or so was when we had like 10 people, like when we were doing a little bit of a set piece.
How much of that? Sorry, how much of that is live sound, and how much of it is re-recorded? How much did the sound man manage to get on?
All the performances. There's only one guy that's ADR'd in there, and that's the taxi driver, because you hardly see his face. Everybody else is the actual, their voices on set of all the locals. We ADR'd a few bits of the actors, but that was expositional things. It wasn't because the sound was no good. It was because we invented lines for them when they were off camera and stuff. And then the problem is then once you start ADRing part of the scene, you've got to do the whole scene because if it pops in and out, you become aware that the microphone sounds a bit different and stuff like this. So, but it was all, the sound actually was really good that we got on set. Obviously there was a proper sound mix, all the creature noises weren't there.
Yeah.